Hi there, Randy Green here. Before we go into discussing the principles and some of the implications there, their purpose and origin and function, I discussed that in the New Grand Cycle Transition courses, but here on YouTube I want to work with them in a little bit different way because I know many of you are still working to figure out how serious you want to be with this work. I've always claimed this about the division between the humans and the humanoids, and as I mentioned in the introduction, there are talks about the original humanities of our solar system, which are called the Utites. Earthites are from and not in Chaldea, but inner Earth, and they were in charge of our planetary system. And for me, when we just tip into inner Earth, there are many different distortion visualizations that can be made in many different imprints that are blocking us from accessing that level of reality. And the matter of the fact is that there are very few left on inner Earth, and inner Earth, as we saw it in the Andromeda system as well, were both part of the original inner domain, but it were also a place where groups escaped in some of the in the aftermath of the timeline event. What I want to go here today in discussion of choices is again working on timelines and beginning to understand why choices are probably one of the most important tools that we have when we embark on the energy work. And we have remnants of these original deep understandings of the energetic choices and the choices that would either lead to progression or will lead to the opposite. It is a matter of choosing choices that will lead to the joining of everything that we are a part of, or choices that will segregate us from the unity. So choices have a large implication on our energy system, because if we constantly choose to do something that is in alignment with a different reality, we will more and more align ourselves via our choices to that reality. And we understand this when we are now saying, okay, I want to get back into the middle domain of our reality field, and that is under the original human races, long before Atlantis and long before the humanoids kind of got a permanent position inside our reality field. So we are going very, very far back to understand who and what we are. And the reason why I'm doing this is because when we talk about getting to the LPF2, that were kind of the less progressive universal structure that were built in alignment with the LPU, there are still the original planetary grids that goes far beyond that and before the modification of our solar system to be able to house and connect to the LPU. And that's some of the things that we agreed with the ancient ones and their original construction. Again, all of this is more in details in the whole philosophy book, as well as in the whole perception logs and all of the course material I've made, because when we do this work, there are glimpses of the past that comes in when we are engaging on the energy work. But there are also other methods to do this, and one of them are visualization. And in terms of symbols and visualization and timeline work and understanding the true nature of our inner symbolic holographic programs that we have that are part of our own energy system, that is part of the holographic teaching system, that will, via visuals, and our current state of existence, will teach us lessons to be learned so we can make the right choices. And then we are having the false insertions that will for sure make us do the wrong choices. But there is, once you learn to get the understanding of energy and you get your inner sight back, you will feel the difference between false memories and true visual imprints that are put into your energy system from where you can activate, because it kind of goes when we talk about inner knowledge. How do we gain inner knowledge? Is it as opening a book and read the pages? That's one way of going through and read the discs, but most of the time it comes in visuals, and that's why it's in many ways have been referred to as a hologram, and that's why I call it a holographic teaching system, because it creates visuals, but it creates visuals using your perception field of your energy system, and that means you have to have activated your heart field and your brain field to be able to do so. I want to take you on a little journey back in time. This is the best way to do this is actually if you kind of sit. You can either lie down and do the horizontal healing on your heart field, the double hand position, or you can sit upright and do the double hand position. It will affect both levels, because this is from the times where the Lyran Pleiadian races were part of that area we now call Egypt. Originally, we are so far back that we are talking about the time where the surface Earth, again, it was after the timeline event, and we are in the 4th cycle, but we are in the times before Atlantis. So at that time, the planet were one there was the water, not as we know of it today, but there were the landmass, which we understand as Pangaea. So this is where everything was connected. It was not divided into these smaller zones that are the aftermath of the hijacking. It technically began 15,000 years ago, but mostly perceived and understood 12,500 years ago, where we also have some cataclysmic events that redefined our planet as we know of it. In this little story, we are in the ancient times before Egypt became Egypt. And we are in the time zones before Atlantis came to be, and before the Series A Syrians, the brown skins, along with their Elohim, Anu Elohim Pleiadian races, and under the governance of Thoth, became part of what ruled Egypt and created what we understand as the gods of Egypt and what we see as the current type of Egypt, remains of the ancient Egypt. But we are long before that. We are in the setting of the original civilizations of humans. At that time, we had surfaced from inner Earth and had took on what we could call a matter form again. We also have matter forms on inner Earth, but it's a different type of matter form. And inner Earth links, as you know, to other planetary systems on the same level, but these, at that point, they are in what we call the LPR3, or the 7th, 8th, and 9th dimension. The Kalontics call it Gaia. I disagree with that one, because for me, there is actually a kind of Gaia, but that's something else, and it's spelled differently than what we know of from the Greeks. But it is one of the other female reality fields that are part of our solar system, but on the higher levels of its domain settings. We are in this setting on what we call the middle domain. At that point in time, where that was more the normal level of existence, and the outer domain were only for what we could call specific type of work and specific type of scientific projects, all pointed in the direction of to undo the effects of the timeline event. So the outer domain, as we know of them, had come to be, but they were different, and the Earth was not inhabited as it is now, because we were existing in the middle domain. And this is kind of, again, the understanding of different aspects of who and what we are when we begin to regain our original memory structure and our original perception field capacities, from where we can expand the content of our consciousness genetics or units into a hologram, from where we can look at the surroundings, the knowledge, the understanding that are part of that genetic composition. And to be able to do so, of course, you have to work on all 6 layers of how to process information in complex information systems, as well as know how to work with the holographic teaching system, that are a type of technology that assists us in doing so we can learn the lesson. The holographic teaching system itself holds the knowledge of the original rules and principles and laws and everything that governs our reality field. so that when we kind of lead or led astray a little bit, we can go there and then gain the knowledge. And here is, I want to use one of the symbols that many of you are acquainted with. There are different of these different sorts of these creatures represented in folklore inside our reality. I'm here talking about the Sphinx. So the Sphinx is not as young as the Egyptologists, that's difficult, wants us to believe. It's older. It is a foundational representation of some of the feline races that were part of some of the original Lyran civilizations. But within this reality field, not as much with the different feline features, although we are seeing some of these represented in the Egyptian pantheon. But this is long before that type of gods came to be. Technically, the Egyptian gods we're seeing, half mammal, half human, or half bird, half human, are some of the experimental hybrid projects that were going on under Thoth. To try and recreate some kind of hybrid genetics that would solve some of the issues of the Anu Elohim races. So we're just going to leave it there and say these gods are not gods, but kind of a specific breed that later on decided that they wanted to be gods, especially after Thoth kind of skipped the scene and left, and things just began to fall apart. Anyways, that's another discussion and another story. But the Sphinx has always been a symbol of wisdom. And what is wisdom? That is the ability to make the right choices, right? When you're wise, you know what to do, you know how to choose correctly. So this is part of that understanding of wisdom, that wisdom is the true capacity to make the choices that lead to the correct energetic outcome. And the correct energetic outcome is, of course, the one that will lead your energy system and your consciousness units to their highest standards and their highest progression rate, as well as the highest purity rate for your vessel in whatever form that it has. Because the principles go for the middle domain and the inner domain and the core domain, and they are also symbolically represented in the outer domain, but there they have become religion, whereas when we're talking about them on the middle domain, we're here talking about the correct utilization of consciousness, of energy, and of the form that we are currently taking part of. And that goes with the reality form as well as our organic vessel that we are living inside and expressing our energy and consciousness throughout into the reality field and beyond. So the Sphinx is the wisdom representation of wisdom. And it's part of many of the secret societies, as are the other tools I have talked about here: the staff, the sphere, the fireball, the thunderbolt, the bell, the sword. All of these things are what we could call energetic representations of older types of understanding of code systems that could be used in a specific way. So technically, when you are symbolizing a sword, you can, but you don't have to. Symbolizing a sword, it typically is one of the Knights of the Templar sword that you are seeing, and here I'm saying the Knights of the Templar, but in our reality field, the ones that were part of the Holy Wars were Knights Templar. Yes, that's what they're called, right? So that they were fighting for the version of God that they believed in. So, but they are very middle-aged swords. They are very long. So this is a very heavy sword. So you have to have, it's kind of an Excalibur sword. So you have to have that strength to carry that sword in itself, which creates, it has many functions, to put it that way. The sword is both something that cuts things loose and it divides things in two. So it is a mean of separation. It is a mean of learning to discern between what is to be and what is not to be, because the sword is a divider, but it can also kill, and it can also technically knight someone, elevate someone, and heal someone. So it's also a type of knowledge. So it is a symbolic representation of a specific type of energy that has been, when we talk about the tarot cards, for instance, have been caught in that representation. The same with the staff and the sphere and all of these different symbols that are deeper symbols to meditate upon to truly understand their function. And they're also part of when you do the inner work on the Kabbalistic tree. And again, I'm not advising you to do that, because the 10 Sephirot, as we know, are connected to the Jewish religion and the Jewish esoteric systems, and we are not Jews, so we will not use that. And it has, as many of these ancient systems, been taken over and are now being used by different forces that we really do not want to get ourselves engaged with. So that is also why we're letting go of the old systems. But we know, when we understand the knight, the honorable person, it is always about, and will always be about, the following the creed, following the vow, following the alliances we have made, and following the truth of the nature of what we believe to be the correct type of life that is suitable for our energy system. So it doesn't necessarily have to be part of what we could call some sort of religion, because the knight is the warrior, and the warrior has these different tools from where he or she can fight off evil and can make the right choices so that the world will be safe for all. You can also call it a guardian if you like. To be able to get access to that knowledge, as we're also seeing it in some of Freemason secret teaching systems, you have to go through the Sphinx. And this is actual going through the Sphinx, the lion-headed human that goes back to the original inner earth humans when they decided to become part of the middle domain and begin to recreate societies there. So it goes so far back. So the Sphinx, the lion-headed female, which it's a female, it's not a male. And it was reconstructed under the Anu Elohim, under the Tothians and the Series A Syrians and the Anu Elohim Pleiadians and these races and what was going on there. So we're going so far back, we're going back to the original version of that female feline Lyran Pleiadian combination, which is shown in the feature of the if you can say human head, but this is where it becomes complex, because when you really look at the Sphinx in its original form, the female feline of law and order and true justice and true knowledge and true wisdom, it will shape shift, so to speak, because she is both a lion, but she is also justice, and she is also seen as some of the things we have seen represented in some of the Greek folklore and mythology of some of the goddesses, and they are holding the sword and the sphere, or some of them are holding the cube, and other of these symbols that are part of what we call attributes, that are energetic features, as we're seeing it in many of the gods represented around our planet. So the attributes are energetic features from where you can work with the reality and reality fields and yourself in different ways. It is not to be used in work with others. We are our own judges. We are our own warriors on the path of progression, and we are the ones that will judge ourselves accordingly. And the holographic teaching system is part of one of these tools that we have got access to. And to be able to get to the last version of the holographic teaching system, that is technically part of the middle domain behind the outer domain version of Egypt, is to go through the Sphinx. And you need to know it's not the statue. It just shows that she is guarding that area. So that's also when we go further back to some of the gate systems that are connected to the outer domain version of middle domain Egypt, which is called something entirely else there. You also understand why that has been one of the solar gates, the fourth stargate. I think it's been positioned as that in the Keylontic sciences. For me, there are different gates there, all depending on what level of reality you're working on. So it's just one of the gate systems, and that one, the D4 or the Stargate 4 that is part of the Cathara grid of the humanoids is their fourth Stargate. But for those of us who are part of the original humans, we have a different Stargate system that are connecting the planets together from where we can travel to other planets using the Stargates in Egypt, middle domain version of it, as well as go to other parallel systems that are now long forgotten, and we don't have access to them anymore, because we would have to go to the inner domain to be able to get access there, technically go through inner Earth. So how do we go through the Sphinx when she is representing herself as judgment and wisdom and order and balance and harmony in our energy system? And these are some of the features when we truly begin to work with the principles of progression. We are encountering different middle domain creatures that are holographic representations of skills, of different abilities, as well as different levels of our original timeline. So we are very, very far into the work here. There has been a lot of artificial programs put in to try and do the same thing. So this is also where discernment comes in. Is it true, or is it something you should really engage in, or is it one of the inserted implants that are put there to derail you and connect you to other reality programs where you really do not want to go and you will not prosper there? So to be able to go through the Sphinx, you have to have the right energetic composition, and that means you have to have the highest purity level. So she will not reveal her secrets. She will be very tangible, and that's where she turns into the lion. When you are not pure enough to go through the Sphinx, and you have not yet gained the ability to put the right symbol on her forehead, from where she will transform into justice, and via justice, that is technically going to unfold itself into a sphere. That is an oval sphere. That is a door from where you can enter. And if you do not have the ability to do that passage, that rite of passage, because your energy system is not in alignment with these features, you will never go through these doors. You can't force your way through. Only the ones that are worthy, as it has been said, will be able to go through these holographic features that will give us back what was lost a long time ago. And some of these features are part of the holographic teaching system, but they were altered by the elder races when they realized that the hijackers did not have their highest interest in mind, and with that began creating secret doorways for those of us who would eventually, in the completion cycle, begin to work our way back out through the original gate systems in the middle domain. So we literally go through the Sphinx. She will stand in front of us as the lion-headed goddess, and we will have, or the watcher or the guardian, you choose yourself, and we will have to go through her via the correct understanding of symbols and the correct purity rate, as well as the correct genetic composition, and go through the gate that is behind, into which we will go into a room. And this is all done in meditation or in what we call vision. And we'll go into that room that is a sphere. It's technically under what we call a kind of a dome, but it is a full dome, so that it is a sphere because it is in the middle domain, and it is one of the middle domain spheres within spheres that are linked to our reality field as part of what we call the restoration program. And there you will see in the middle there is a very large fire sphere, but it's not fire, it's not light, it's code, light, consciousness that are working together. And by that, there are no human words for this, but you will know it when you see it, and you will see how it looks. You will see it with your inner eye, and it will correspond to a level in the middle of your brain. And there you will sit in that circle that is around in the sphere, with the sphere within spheres in the middle domain. And you will sit on the benches, one of the benches that are around in a circle, and you will sit there and you will meditate through your what has been called the Aina, or the third eye, and your heart that has to be pure as the highest day of light, pure as snow when the sun is radiating through the crystals of the snow, and are not melting the snow but are elevating the snow into these pure potentials of true light, which again is a little bit kind of confusing to understand. But if you work with these ideas, you will understand the depth of them, because they are showing you dynamics from where you can transform energy. So you are sitting there and you're connected to that one, to the center point in the middle of your brain, which has been activated by the true energetic middle domain density version of your pituitary and your pineal gland. I talk about that in some of the whole basic classes, as well as later on in the whole transition science classes. That point in the middle of the brain can then connect to the holographic teaching system. And from there, as you do that in your holographic representation in your middle domain version of your energy system, this is not astral projection. This is you creating a version of yourself using your perception field, and by that create an extended version of yourself from where you can travel on the different domains. You're traveling in your consciousness, and you're using energy to do so, the correct type of energy. And you're using, here it's not necessarily the timelines, but the timeline has to go back to that ancient state of Egypt. So you have to know how to travel on timelines as well to get access to that level. And there you will go to that point in time where you can shift into the restoration program and some of the secret passages that are created for us to regain our original consciousness structure. As you're sitting there connecting to that sphere within the spheres, in the domains within the domains, and in the worlds that are not a world but one that is made for our convenience, you will see that there will be a sort of activation inside of you, in your heart field and in your brain field, that will ignite according to some of the very secret code systems that are in that sphere. Each and one of us will perceive it differently, because we have different types of code systems in our energy system. And there it will unfold into, your brain will probably perceive it as different colors, different symbols, and different types of patterns that will begin to, they are not two-dimensional. They have some kind of flame in the middle that will expand out in rings, that will change into currents, that will change into patterns, that will change into different levels of knowledge and code systems, that will change into different complex information patterns, again, but in smaller units, that will then accrete into some kind of comprised version of it that will then be transferred into the center of your brain, so that you can hold it in this reality, in this form, as what we have become now. That will then transform and go into the same thing that's happening to your heart field, where a different version of comprised energy and code systems will then ignite a new level of your heart field. So this is an upgrade of the brain field as well as an upgrade of the heart field. That will then combine into a new type of current that will then push down and alter some of the code systems of the root vortex that goes with the biofield. So when we talk about the understanding of genetic regenesis, there are similarities in terms of how the Kalontics are doing it, But for me, the huge difference is here that this is not being taught from someone outside. I'm sharing this with you as an example. There are many different examples, but this one goes with what we call the fourth strand of the true human, to put it that way. And that's one of the things that needs to be learned and to be mastered, the ability to travel in time on timelines, which is the historical setting, the ability to go through the holographic passages, knowing what to do there. That's why the Sphinx, if you don't do it right, she will kill you. Literally, you will evaporate. That's the lion. And if you have the right configuration, know the right symbol that are to be placed on her forehead, she will shapeshift into being human justice. And that's a scanning technology that will then create a doorway, an oval sphere, that from where you can go through that. And if you enter into that one impure, if you have impurities, these will be cleared out. So only the purest version of you will go into that sanctum or that inner reality level as part of the restoration program, where you will then position a version of yourself you have created for the purpose and the control of energy and consciousness, from where you will be able to link up to the sphere in the middle of the sphere, in the middle of the world that is not a world, and the round that is not a round, and whatever you want to put it, and there connect to it, because you have built in this film the correct type of energy system that is capable of linking up to that type of holographic technology. There you will then get a code sequence that you need that will then go from the sphere in that middle domain sanctuary, and it will then be transferred into this organic form, from where your heart field or the heart vortex and your brain vortex will alter itself and create new configurations of your energy system. And your brain will perceive this in different ways, but these patterns are very interactive, and they are repairing code sequences from where you can begin to repair some of the damages of your biofield, as well as the vibrational field and the radiation fields. But it will present itself in different ways, and your brain must be able to just let these energies unfold their content, and you will just be the observer as these reconfigurations are taking place. If you have done it correctly, then that level that you have entered will then evaporate and cease to exist. And then that sphere will collapse, and that level of reality will no longer be there, because that was a one-time access point. So if you in that section are doing it wrongly, you will destroy it as well, and it will also collapse. So that is somewhere when we do this inner work, you only get one chance. You only get one chance to do it right, because if you don't do it right, it shows that you have not yet get control of energy, and therefore you have contaminated, and it will collapse. If you have done it correctly, you will get what you need. You will have the transfer, and then it will collapse. And it will collapse because you don't need to go there again. You will probably meet other entities from where you will know how to work your way through them, through the different gate systems, through the guardian, through the correct knowledge and understanding of what to do. And then you will get what you need to get. So this is also the highest, this is not also, but this is the highest level of the mastery of choices. So as you know from my talk on Buddhism, as well as the other things I've been doing here, we're working with the highest end of the spectrum, and then we're working with what we could say the end of the spectrum that is within the outer domain or the outer reality. If you had listened to this one, you would hear that I said that's part of the restoration program. So, and I also talked about the introduction about some of what we call the reconstruction of our original consciousness units and holographic energy units, from where we're recreating the original transformative energy system. And that is done through an event like this one. So it's not something you are getting from the outside, looking at symbols or listening to sounds or having someone teaching you that or putting their hands on you or anything. This is something you do in your inner work. This is part of the highest level of the inner work, from where you recreate yourself because you have the skills to do so. And that is what I wanted to share with you in this little sequence. Thank you.